Greetings to one and all present here. I'm deeply honored to welcome you all to the 4th edition of Model United Nations presented by City Montessori School, Rajajipuram Campus I. Our agenda for this Model United Nations is reforming the UN Charter through the formation of a global governance structure. It is a topic that resonates deeply with the challenges and opportunities of our interconnected world, transcending borders and bringing nations together to find solutions to the most complex problems. We will ponder over the means of strengthening the global governance structure, debate over reforming the UN Charter, and most importantly, the urgent need for climate action. We will stimulate the dynamic, often intense, and always enlightening world of international diplomacy. As we embark on this journey, I encourage you all to approach this Model United Nations with an open mind, a spirit of cooperation, and a dedication to make a positive impact, and work towards a better, more peaceful, and sustainable world. So here we present our Model United Nations.
Distinguished delegates and esteemed guests, I stand before you today with great honor and responsibility as the Secretary General for this Model United Nations. The alarming reality we face is that the current global governance structures are ill-equipped to help us face and solve the complex issues of the world. We need to rethink global governance from the ground up. We need to build a system that is more inclusive, more equitable, and more efficient. The world is watching, ladies and gentlemen, and history will judge our generation by how we respond to these pressing issues. Having said that, I would like to welcome you all to the 24th Conference of the Chief Justices of the World for the year 2023. Now, with the powers vested in me as the Secretary General, I, Nikhil Saxena, declare this conference open. To my left is Madam Deputy Secretary, Ms. Sahani Mishra. I would like to request her to kindly continue with the proceedings of the committee.
As the quorum is established and the roll call is already taken, the committee is ready to start. With the discretion of the Executive Board, the General Speakers list is also established. Delegates who wish to speak in this PSL may raise their placards. Delegate of Croatia, followed by representative of WHO, Delegate of France, and Delegate of Nigeria. Delegate of Croatia, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Women are leaders everywhere you look. From the CEO who runs the Fortune 500 company to a housewife heading her household, our countries were built by strong women. So isn't it high time that we give to them the ultimate justice they so rightly deserve? The more I've spoken about feminism in the UNCSW committees, the more I have realized that fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating. Feminism is not about dominating the other gender, it is about gender equality. And here comes effective global governance, which enhances the gender budgeting and can be a powerful force in dismantling religious barriers, because hijab or no hijab, pro-life or pro-choice, marriage or no marriage, it is, after all, a woman's choice. Global governance also contributes to the implementation of the international agreements such as the CEDAW and the Beijing Declaration, all together working on the principle that justice knows no gender. I would like to quote Malala Yousafzai. I raise up my voice, not so that I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back. I unquote. The question is, how many more women need to get shot before we, the nations, come to our senses and give to our women what they need, what they deserve, that is their rights, unfiltered, unhindered, unrestricted, and unburdened. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the World Health Organization tirelessly extends its hand to heal the world, but often finds itself struggling alone. With over 6.5 million fatalities due to the pandemic, WHO fought against this relentless adversary, yet suffered due to lack of funding and global cooperation. In this critical time, instead of supporting WHO's efforts in coordinating global responses, many member nations openly criticized us. I ask you, what good is a global organization if the member states fail to stand together even in the face of a global catastrophe? If we still fail to learn from our past mistakes and stand united, then the blame lies not with our governance or legal systems, but with ourselves. I yield my time to the Executive Board.
Yes, Delegate of Switzerland.
The delegate of Switzerland wishes to seek right of reply.
Permission granted.
Thank you, Chair. Switzerland, like many nations, has contributed significantly to WHO's fundings over the years. While we understand the complexities and pressures faced by the organization, it is crucial to ensure that funds are employed efficiently and transparently. WHO should take responsibility for financial mismanagement and demonstrate a commitment to ensure that every penny entrusted to it is used judiciously. Thank you.
Merci, Honorable Chair. Bonjour, distinguished delegates. The world has transformed into a global village, and we are aware that a global community demands a world government to be taken good care of. The French government fully backs the establishment of an international regulating body and believes that the international law must be upheld. Global governance structure with strong collaboration will nip the thriving of any terrorist organization in the bud and will make funding any such organization a punishable offense by putting sanctions on those who indulge in it. No nation will be allowed to unleash atrocities on civilians, as they have to keep humanitarian laws as their first priority. The UN is often unable to address some issues, and I believe that the French government has made the right decision to back the establishment of an international regulating body. I believe that we cannot simply consume excellent government. We must equally participate and co-create it. Merci.
Nigeria, a land of breathtaking diversity and unparalleled natural beauty, is a home to many magnificent creatures. However, sadly, these creatures who we share our planet with are now watching their own natural habitats disappear right before their eyes. My country stands as a critical player in the global struggle against climate change. In November 2021, Nigeria passed the historical Climate Change Act, which sets up a visionary path to achieve sustainable development, green and sustainable prosperity, and the bold and challenging aim to achieve net zero carbon emissions between 2050 and 2070. It is possible for any nation to stand against climate change. Only political will is required. I believe a nation can do this. This is the biggest social emergent movement in all of history. We can do this. And if anybody thinks that we lack the political will, remember, political will is itself a renewable resource. I yield my time to the executive board.
Delegates, at this point of time, do we have any points on the floor? Any motions on the floor? Yes, Delegate of Peru.
The delegate of Peru wishes to raise the motion to suspend the former debate and enter into a moderated caucus on the topic strengthening of global governance to meet global challenges and reforming UN Charter for multilateralism.
This motion is in order. Delegates who wish to speak in the caucus may raise their placards. Delegate of Peru, Delegate of Poland, Delegate of the United States of America, followed by Delegate of India. You may have the floor for 60 seconds each.
Buenos dias. I profoundly believe that global governance has benefited Peru, as IMF, a global governing body, has made it gain access to financial resources, technology, and expertise. Despite Peru's economic growth over the past decade, its poverty rate still remains remarkably high at 48%. And had it not been for IMF grants, its poverty rate would have been much higher. The delegate of Peru strongly believes that restructuring of United Nations for effective global governance is the answer to the present situation. At last, I want to quote Xavier Perez de Cuellar. Global governance is a system of rules, institutions, and practices that shape the way the world is changed. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Just as science knows no country, the challenges we face today are borderless. Let the reform of the UN Charter reflect our commitment towards solving global problems together. So let me remind you all that we are all bound by a common thread of our battles against poverty, illiteracy, unemployment, and the climate change. We stand together, united by our shared struggles. Due to the Security Council being dominated by the superpowers, adequate help was not provided to Poland after the Second World War and during the Cold War. Neither was any decisive action taken during the Hungarian Revolution of 1956, nor in the Prague Spring of 1968. All this happened due to a deadlock caused by the reckless and irresponsible use of the veto power by the permanent members of the Security Council. Poland, along with its neighboring nations, bore the brunt of it. There is a definite need for reforms in the UN Charter to incorporate global representation in the Security Council, and Poland stands by it. Thank you.
Yes, Delegate of United Kingdom.
The delegate of United Kingdom seeks permission to exercise the right of reply.
Permission granted.
Reforming the UN Charter or extending the veto power might sound very appealing to many. But this idea, if executed, would shake the very foundation of the United Nations organizations. The delegate of United Kingdom would also like to bring to the notice of the fellow member nations that the P5 have contributed immensely over the years, whether it was diffusing war-like situations or funding the global agencies for their efficient operation. Thank you.
Today, I stand here with a voice echoing the convictions of my nation, and I must loudly proclaim, it is not the soul of the UN Charter that requires a reform, but the vigor, the commitment, and the ways we enact its noble principles. Think of the legacy that was bestowed upon us. The UN Charter was crafted out of the ashes of conflict, and it has served as a bedrock, a foundation for global relations, peacekeeping, and diplomacy. So, do we really need to change this foundation, or do we merely need to build upon it with more determination. Yes, we must advocate for greater inclusivity. Yes, we must involve all voices, from the corridors of power to the streets of our cities, but never at the expense of our national sovereignty. Let's be louder in our commitment to respecting boundaries, even as we enhance cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, the call from the United States today is not just a whisper, but a resounding shout. What we must change is not the spirit of the UN Charter, but the strength and innovation with which we bring it to life. Thank you.
It is injustice to oneself to expect much from the world. Charter of United Nations has landed in the unfortunate situation of eye for an eye, blood for blood, and broken bones for shattered souls. Security Council retains the same 5 permanent members for 8 decades now. India as a permanent member is still a question. The Security Council struggles to enforce its resolution when powerful nations are involved. It cannot act to address or stop human sufferings when one of its permanent members is an associate to the conflict. The structure of UNSC does not reflect on the contemporary geopolitical realities. India urges that a reformed council is essential for its continued relevance. Ladies and gentlemen, where is the Security Council when Palestinians and Israelis are being deprived of their basic human rights? What did we do as a global community to broker peace during Russia-Ukraine war? We call for UN Charter reform to establish a more just world order. After all, my humanity is bound up in yours, for we can only be human together. Thank you.
The Executive Board is now looking for a point of information. The delegate who wishes to rise to the POI may raise their placard. Yes, Delegate of Australia.
Thank you, Chair. We have discussed and accepted the need for reforms in the UN Charter. In fact, Article 109 of the UN Charter paves our way for amendment. The delegate of Australia wishes to ask if we were to extend veto power and give it to more countries, what impact will it have on the credibility of the Security Council?
Delegate of India would like to answer the question asked by Delegate of Australia.
Yes, Delegate of India. Permission is granted.
If we were to broaden the allocation of veto power, it would enhance the UNSC's representation of worldwide community, as more countries would have a say in its decision. This will lead to more legitimacy and support in UNSC's work. India therefore expresses its solidarity with the effort to reform the UN Charter so that the outdated international governance structures can be transformed to reflect a just, principled, representative, and accountable global order. Thank you.
We revert to GSL. Delegate of Mauritius, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Today, we gather with heavy hearts to address issues of paramount importance, issues that pose concern to each and every member country, like climate change, that threaten the very fabric of our beautiful island nation, Mauritius. Underwater tourism contributes 40% to our economy, and climate change induces sea temperature rise that leads to coral bleaching, damaging the reefs and affecting tourism. We feel the anguish of the communities affected by eroding coastlines, the farmers grappling with unpredictable weather, and the fishermen who struggle as fish stocks migrate further away. I ask, is that fisherman in any way responsible for the loss of his livelihood? Why should he suffer? Who do we blame? I quote none other but the Secretary General of the United Nations.
The era of global warming has ended. The era of global boiling has arrived. Leaders must lead. No more hesitation, no more excuses, and no more waiting for others to move first. We can still stop the worst. Thank you.
Delegates, in the present times, climate change has been the most important concern of the world. Therefore, we enter into a moderated caucus on the topic climate change. Delegates who wish to speak in the caucus may raise their placards. Delegate of Brazil, followed by delegate of South Korea. You may have the floor for 60 seconds each.
Thank you, Chair. In 2019, Brazil was burning with forest fires, and on the other hand, inundated with floods. These disasters displaced over 295,000 people. We are already suffering from the impact of climate change, from more extreme weather conditions to rising sea level. Human activity is the cause of climate problem, so human action must be the solution. Brazil is a leader in climate act, and we have improved our environmental laws and policies. We are committed to reduce our GHG emissions by 37% below 2005 levels by 2025. The climate crisis is spiraling out of our control, and we can't help but feel a sense of urgency because we are doing our bit. But what about others? Are they doing it?
Thank you, Chair. Ladies and gentlemen, let us picture a world where the air is crisp, the oceans teem with life, and our planet's natural wonders are preserved for generations to come. This is not a dream. It's a vision of what's possible if we recognize the urgent need to address this critical issue that looms over us. A threat that goes beyond the headlines and statistics. We are facing monumental crossroads in our history. A turning point where our actions today will determine whether this vision becomes a reality or remains just a phantasm. As I see the devastating impacts in my country, South Korea, my heart aches for those who have lost their homes, their livelihoods, and their loved ones. Therefore, climate change is not an abstract concept. It is an unfolding tragedy, one that touches us all. It is a force that does not discriminate. It affects us all, rich and poor, old and young, across generations and around the globe. In his opening remarks, the UN Secretary General has said that the air is unbreathable and the heat is unbearable. So what are we still waiting for? Signing the Climate Solidarity Pact? Our pact is with us. We are the climate warriors. So, ladies and gentlemen, let us forge our way towards a sustainable future. One that preserves the beauty and diversity of our planet. Thank you.
We revert back to GSL. Delegate of Germany, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to begin by sharing some staggering statistics that underscore the urgency of the issue that we are discussing today. Around 14 million children suffer from acute malnutrition. 45% of child deaths worldwide are due to hunger, and 700 children die each day suffering from illnesses caused by unhygienic living conditions. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you with hope in my heart to be a catalyst for positive change as I address an issue of utmost importance as it affects us all, transcending borders and boundaries. It touches each and every one of us in the most profound manner, the food crisis. While some of us have the privilege to enjoy delicious meals without having to worry where our next meal will come from, Others struggle to find basic sustenance. According to the latest hunger hotspot report given by the United Nations, conflict, climate crisis, and economic shocks remain the key drivers of hunger throughout the world. But do we truly understand the gravity of the situation? Can we ignore the cries of children going to bed with empty stomachs while their parents can do nothing but watch them helplessly resigned to the situation as they themselves are starving? Shouldn't we, with the power to make a difference, say enough is enough? We need political will and global solidarity to end hunger and malnutrition once and for all. Therefore, I urge all the nations to come together, not only in charity, but in justice, to build a world where every meal is a celebration of shared abundance. Thank you.
Do we have more speakers who wish to speak in this GSL? Representative of African Union and Delegate of Jordan, you are recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Imagine a life where you are constantly hungry, even though you work hard every day. Imagine a life where you have to walk for miles to get water, and even then it is often contaminated. Imagine a life where you live in fear of disease, violence, and war. This is the reality for many people in Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, I say this not to earn pity, but to emphasize how cruel the same world which sustains us can be to others. I say this to emphasize the need for inclusivity, cooperation, and global governance in today's time. On September 9, 2023, by means of the Delhi Declaration, the African Union was granted permanent membership to the G20. The delegate believes that this step towards global integration signifies that we are ready to embrace the challenge, that we are ready to harness the immense potential that our continent possesses. It is a fact that we will not be able to manage our complex global interdependence unless we rely on institutions of global governance. Global governance in today's time is not just an option, but a necessity. Together, we need to create a world where nations cooperate not out of necessity, but out of the belief that no one should be left behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Greetings, esteemed delegates. Salman Rushdie once stated, and I quote, "To be displaced is to be out of place. To be without a place. It is to be in a state of limbo, neither here nor there." Unquote. Every day, innocent people are forced to flee the place that they once called home. They are men, women, and children who have lost everything and are desperately seeking safety and just a normal life. They are the displaced people. Countries often issue abrupt notices to these tested people as if they had a choice before becoming refugees. I must establish that no one chooses to be a refugee, and no one deserves inhumane treatment. It is estimated that the nation of Jordan hosts an alarming 1.3 million refugees. I repeat, 1.3 million refugees. Delegates, imagine living in a devastating state and coming across a beacon of hope, just to find out that that hope was just an illusion. Such are the lives of these refugees. The delegate of Jordan would like to ask this international forum that if nations can come together to fight wars in battlefields, Should these nations not come together to combat this consequential issue? Or should these nations not work together so that these issues may never arise in the first place? Thank you.
Delegates in favor can raise their placards.
Thank you to all the esteemed delegates. It was an overwhelming session hearing you all. During the discussion, some very important pointers were brought up and discussed. Ladies and gentlemen, throughout our time together, we have tackled various global challenges and forged new partnerships, but let us remember that our work is still far from complete. Despite the formidable challenges, I remain hopeful.
I certainly agree with Madam Deputy Secretary. The challenges we face may be daunting, but the human spirit is indomitable. The dead, ladies and gentlemen, cannot cry out for justice. It is the duty of the living to do so for them. Let us carry forward the spirits of a united nation, a spirit of unity amidst diversity of understanding. Having said that, I, Nikhil Saxena, the Secretary General for this Model United Nations, declare the conference closed.